Om Sadashiva Shankaracharya Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Vinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya. So we are on the second chapter, the first section, that is Dvitiya Mundake Prathama Khandaha, mantra number 3, Tritiya mantra. So we will chant that. Etasmad jayate pranaha manas sarvendriyani cha kham vayur jyotirapaha prithvi vishwasya dharini. Okay. So I'll give you the word meanings first. Etasmat, from this, and we have to, that this is equal to Brahman. So from this Brahman, etasmat, jayate, are born the following things: pranaha, manaha, sarva indriyani, all the sense organs, kham is space, vayuhu, air, jyotihi, agnihi, or fire, apaha, water, cha prithvi, that is the earth, and the adjective to prithvi is dharani vishwasya, which is the supporter of everything, of the entire world. Okay. Now let's look at in more detail. So from this Brahman, etasmat jayate pranaha. The first, so a detailed list of things which are born are being given. And when we say this Brahman, remember it is Saguna Brahman, Maya Shakti Brahman. That is Para plus Apara Prakriti in Bhagavad Gita terms, 7th chapter. This is Easwara. From that Easwara, what all is born? Kham, Vayur Jyotihi, Prithvi, Apaha, space, air, fire, word, and earth. These are all born. And we know by now that in the Srishti process, there are two stages. First is the Sukshma Panchabhutani, and then Panchikaranam takes place, and the Thula Panchabhutani or Bhautikani are born. So in this mantra is talking about Sukshma and Sthula Panchabhutani are born. So Pranaha, Manaha is given first. Pranaha, Mana Jayate. So first Prana is born. Prana and Mana, when you take together, you can take it as subtle body. The Prana is also Pranamaya Kosha, Manamaya Kosha. So you can take it as the subtle body. And Sarvendriyani, all the Indriyanis, which means Karmendriyani and Jnanendriyani. This is all Prana, Mana, Sarvendriyani represents what? Sukshma Shariram. And you have to recall from Tattva Bodha that all the gunas are involved. Sattva is involved, Rajas is involved, and Tamas is involved in the creation. All the three gunas are involved in the creation of this universe. And Sattva Guna stands for knowledge, Rajoguna stands for action, and Tamoguna stands for inertia or rest. And so you can take the entire life. In fact, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, if you look at it, it projects your entire life. Knowing, doing, resting, and again getting up, knowing, doing, resting. The whole creation is therefore these three only projected from Maya. And Maya gets activated in the presence of Brahman, just like the inert iron nails. They start moving in the presence of a magnet. That is a example used in scriptures in the Upanishad. That just as inert iron filings start to move in the presence of a magnet, Maya, the inert Maya, gets activated in the presence of Brahman. What is the start of the universe? Science calls it the Big Bang. We say that the law of karma is responsible, is the initiator of the Big Bang, but science has no answer to this question. Who or what initiates the Big Bang? Now, according to Tattva Bodha, there is a particular order of Srishti. First, the subtlest element, Akasha, and then gross and non-gross. And therefore, Kham is Akasha, and Kham has Shabda, right? Shabda as the specific guna, sound as a specific guna. And by saying this, all the four attributes, other four attributes, which is Rupa, Sparsha, Rasa, Gandha, are negated. And therefore, sound is said to be the Vishesha Guna of space. All this is, of course, Tattva Bodha. Then Vayuhu, the Vishesha Guna is Sparsh, then Agnihi, Rupaha, Jalaha, taste, Gandhaha, smell, etc., etc. Now, one thing we should note here, that the mantra gives Pranaha, Manaha, Sarvendriyani cha, Kham, Vayu, Jyotirapaha as the order. Now, in Shastra, in the Shastram, there is something called Artha Krama. Krama is a sequence. Artha Krama is the logical sequence. And what is the logical sequence? We know that from Tattva Bodha, that first should be Panchabhutani and then Bhautikani. But this mantra gives the Bhautikani first and the Bhutani later. And this textual order, so there are two orders, the logical order, Arthakrama, and the order given in the text, the textual order. It's called a Pathakrama. All terms used in Mimamsa, Arthakrama and Pathakrama. So the Mimamsa rule is, then when the two kramas differ, right, when the krama given in the text, that is to say, the sequence given in the text, the Pathakrama, varies from the logical sequence, the Arthakrama, then Arthakrama should be taken because it is superior to Pathakrama. The rule is that when the Pathakrama and Arthakrama, the logical sequence and the textual sequence, they are not consistent, then for our own understanding, we should rearrange the words. Remember that we don't rearrange the words in the mantra. The mantra is sacred. It is Veda Shabda. So we don't touch the mantra, we don't touch the Veda, but we rearrange the words in our own understanding. Okay, now look at the first word. Etasma, from that Brahman alone. Which Brahman? So there are two Brahmans. One is Karanam Brahman, Brahman as the cause, and one can be Karya Karana Vilakshana Brahman. So Brahman as the cause means the Brahman which can be the cause, which is Saguna Ishvara, and Karya Karana Vilakshanam. Vilakshanam means different from. Karyam is product, Karanam is cause. Karya Karana Vilakshana Brahma, it's a term often used. It means Nirguna Brahman, which is neither the cause nor the product. While Karanam Brahman is the cause, the creator, it is Saguna Brahman. Now here, when you say Etasmat, obviously it has to be Saguna Brahman, because we are talking about Srishti. Since creation is there, product is the reference, and if there is a product, there must be a creator, and therefore obviously this Etasmat is the Saguna Brahman we are referring to. It cannot refer to Nirguna Akarta Brahman. So that Brahman which has the Upadhi of the universe of Maya, that is Saguna Brahman. Therefore, Etasmat refers to from that Saguna Brahman, from that Ishvara, Jayate. Jayate means it is born. Okay. Now the question is, what type of birth is it? When you say that product is born, Jagat is born. What type of creation is born? Is it a real creation or is the unreal creation? And this is the difference between the two branches of Advaitam, which are Vishishta Advaitam and pure Advaitam. Vishishta Advaitam says that Brahman undergoes parinamam. It's called Brahma Parinama Vada. Parinama means modification. And therefore, Vishishta Advaitam says Brahman modifies to produce a real creation, which means the creation is as real as Brahman. And this is called Brahma Parinama Vada. So Vishishta Advaitam is also referred to as Brahma Parinama Vada. They say that Brahman modifies, of course, but produces a real creation. While we, the Advaitins, say that Brahman appears to modify. Brahman seemingly modifies, and because it's a seeming modification, the creation is also seeming, and therefore it is a mithya creation. And this is called Brahma Vivartavada. So you might hear these terms when you read books or discussions. Brahma Parinamavada is Vishishta Advaitam. Brahma Vivartavada is pure Advaita. And what is this difference due to? The modification in pure Advaitam is a seeming modification. And that seeming modification is due to what? Avidya Kalpitam, Maya Kalpitam, because of Avidya only. It doesn't really modify, it appears as having been modified, and therefore it's called Brahma Vivartavada. Vivarta means that which is not Brahman, that which undergoes no real modification. And therefore this appears as what? That real Brahman, the Satyam Brahman, which has not really undergone any modification, that appears to have undergone some modification and appears in the form of Mithya Jagat, a Mithya product. And what is this Karyam? Shankara says, Namadheyo. There is only in the form of name. There is only a form which has got a name, and therefore there is really no substance called Jagat. The Jagat is basically Brahman only. So in English, we can call it the ontological status. What is the degree of reality of this Jagat? And Shankara says it is false in nature. He uses the word Anritatmakaha. Anritam means false. So this Jagat is really false in nature. And we have to understand it as the most common mistake we make, of course, is that false is equated with unreal, that which is not there. So Anritam here is of a lower order of reality. Not that it doesn't exist. It exists, but it is of a lower order of reality, which we call Vyavaharika Satyam. And the prana, the word prana is used here. And Shankara says prana, Shruti uses the term prana, but it has to be taken to mean the entire universe, because everything requires prana, and therefore it has to be taken as the entire universe. And he says it is in the form of a change only, a seeming change. And he quotes from Chandogya Upanishad, which we shall see when we do it. There's a very famous quote, Vacharambhanam Vikaro Namadheyam. So it is a change, Vikaraha, or a product, which is what? Namadheyam. It is only in the form of a name. And where is that name? Vacharambhanam. It exists or it is Arambhana, Vacha Arambha. That name is initiated by the tongue only, means it exists only on your tongue. The name exists, is produced only on your tongue. There is no substance at all. Like when you say that the pot is really clay, which means what? Not that you cannot use the pot, because you can pour water in the pot and you can use it for daily activities, so it exists. But really, when you go to analyze the pot, you will find that there is no substance called the pot. It is only clay, and that is what is called mithya. Therefore, he says, avidya vishayana, avidya kalpitena, maya kalpitena. Because of the influence of maya, because of the association with avidya. Avidya is technical term for maya. Because of the association with avidya, this particular jagat is there. You can see it, you can interact with it, you live in it, but it is basically, it is mithya only. And therefore, Brahman is not touched by Jagat. Brahman is free from Jagat because Brahman belongs to Paramarthika Satyam and Jagat belongs to a different level of reality, Vyavaharika Satyam. The lower level of reality cannot touch the higher level of reality. And Shankara gives an example. He says, supposing, he uses the name Devadatta, which is a very famous name used in the scriptures. So he says, supposing Devadatta is sleeping and is dreaming, and he dreams that he has a son. Okay, so that dream is in which reality? What is the status of reality of the dream? What do we call it?
Pratibhasika Satya.
Pratibhasika Satyam. Okay, so Pratibhasika Satyam is a lower level of reality than Vyavaharika Satyam. So he is comparing Paramarthika and Vyavaharika, and to do the comparison, he introduces Vyavaharika and a lower level of reality called Pratibhasika. So supposing in the Pratibhasika Satyam, Devadatta has got a son. Devadatta really belongs to which reality? To Vyavaharika. But he is dreaming, and in the dream Devadatta gets a son. So he says, when he comes back to the waking state, that son in the dream does not confer on him the status of a father in the Vyavaharika state. And therefore, he is free of the dream son in the Jagrata Avastha. Similarly, he says, Brahman, which is of a higher nature in Paramarthika Avastha, is free from any problem which may arise in the Vyavaharika Avastha. Okay, one more thing. This is an objection. Okay, an objection is that when you say etasmad jayate pranaha, the casual understanding will be that Shastram is saying that everything comes from Brahman. Everything is born of Brahman. But then how can you say, when Jagat is born of Brahman, how can you say that Brahman is free from Jagat? That's a casual reading, a casual objection can come. And Shankara points out, it is not the Tatparyam. The essential objective of Vedanta is not to explain Srishti. And therefore, you have to understand that when Vedanta says, etasmad jayate pranaha, pranaha here meaning the entire Jagat also, we have to understand that Srishti is pointing out, in spite of everything being born from Brahman, Brahman is still not touched by anything. Brahman is ever free from everything. That is what is being pointed out. And that is why he gives the example of Devadatta and his dream son. Because the dream son and the dream universe and the dream, everything is born from whom? From Vyavaharika Devadatta alone. But that Vyavaharika Devadatta is still not touched at all by anything in the dream. And in his commentary here, Shankara says that the previous mantra, that is the second mantra, second chapter, first section, second mantra. What is that mantra? Divyo Hyamurta Purushaha. That mantra, he says, is the key mantra. Because that key mantra talks about what kind of Brahman. Have a look at the previous mantra. Divyo Hyamurta Purushaha Sabhayabhyantaro Hyajaha Aprano Hyam Manashubраha Yaksharat Parataf Paraha. What kind of Brahman is referred to over there?
Nirguna. Nirguna Brahman.
Nirguna Brahman is referred to over there. And why is it the key mantra? Because Saguna Brahman cannot be the key to moksha. Knowing Saguna Brahman, you will not get moksha, because Saguna Brahman also belongs to the world of time. Saguna Brahman begins and ends also. And therefore, Nirguna Brahman is the key to moksha. And here he is saying that taking that key mantra 2.1.2, which is about Nirguna Brahman, Shastram is teaching very elaborately, and to make this teaching really stick in your mind, that the same Nirguna Brahman is taught in two ways. As Saguna Karanam, as the Saguna cause, as the creator, and as Saguna Karyam also. So here in this mantra number 3, remember that when you say something emerges from Brahman, the product is never different from the cause. That is what is to be taken. And therefore here that same Brahman is being presented as Saguna Karyam and Saguna Karanam. As the Karanam and the Karyam, it is being productive, it is being presented. And later on, the what we call Neti Neti, that will knock off both the Karyam and the Karanam status, which leaves us with Nirvishesha Brahman, the Karana Karya Vilakshana Brahman. And therefore, in short, Aksharam Brahman is the subject matter of Paravidya. And of what nature is the Aksharam Brahman? The Brahman which can never die. What nature is that? He says Nirvishesham, has no attributes. And therefore, all the words that are used in this Upanishad, all those words used in the previous mantra, right? Previous mantra is what? Talks about Purushaha, etc. Devyo Himarta Purushaha. So he's talking about those words. All the words used there are from the Paramarthika Drishtihi. So 2.1.2 is Nirguna Brahman. And that same Nirguna Brahman is now being presented from Vyavaharika Drishtihi, Saguna Brahman. And why is it necessary when you already said? When he has said that Saguna Brahman is not a tool for moksha, it is only Nirguna Brahman, which is a tool for moksha. Why is it necessary to talk about Saguna Brahman? So Shankaracharya says that very potent statement, that you have to understand that anything which enters Vyavaharika, we are talking about all the objects of the world, including your own body and mind. So you, the RC, you have entered Vyavaharika. You, the Jiva, you have entered Vyavaharika. Anything entering Vyavaharika is subjected to the influence of Maya. Right? Okay. Jiva is subject to influence of Maya. Jagat is subject to influence of Maya. What about, why are we talking about Saguna Brahman? Because anything entering Vyavaharika, we said, anything includes Brahman. Brahman, when it enters the Vyavaharika sphere, Brahman is also subject to the influence of Maya. And to put it in other words, from the Vyavaharika Drishti, from the viewpoint of Vyavaharika, the relational world, there is no such thing as Nirguna Brahman. In Vyavaharika, there can be only Saguna Brahman, Saguna Jiva, Saguna Jagat. And therefore, since all discussions, all teachings, all understandings, all nididhyasanam, they all take place in Vyavaharika only. You cannot avoid discussing Saguna Brahman. Because in Vyavaharika, what is there? Saguna Jiva, Saguna Brahman, Saguna Jagat. The triangular format consists of these three. At the same time, we should always remember that even though you are talking about Saguna Brahman, that Saguna Brahman is not separate from Nirguna Brahman. If you remember this, then these mantras make sense. And therefore, the whole thing is taught in much more detail in the following mantras. Okay, any questions so far? All right, then we will look at the fourth mantra. We will read. Agnirmurdha chakshushi chandra suryo
Agnirmurdha chakshushi chandra suryau
Dishashrotre vagvivrtascha vedaha
Dishashrotre vagvivritaścha vedaः
Vayuh prano hridayam vishvamasya
Vayuः prano
हृदयं विश्वस्य
Padbhyam prithvi yesha sarva bhutantaratma
Padvyam prithvi yesha sarvabhutanatma.
Okay, so I'll just give the word meanings first, then we'll look at the discussion. So, Eshaha, here Eshaha is not Brahman. It is Saguna Brahman, but Saguna Karya Brahman. So, Eshaha, this Virat, Sarva Bhuta Antara Atma. Sarva Bhutantara Atma, Sarva Bhutaha Antara Atma is the inner essence of all beings, and he is indeed, can you supply over the indeed born from Brahman alone? And then there's a description. Asya Murdha, the head of this Virat. Agnihi is the heaven. Chakshushihi, so Asya Chakshushihi, his eyes are what? Chandra and Suryaha, moon and the sun. Asya Shrotraha, his ears. Dishaha are the directions, the four directions. Vak, his speech. Vivritaha Vedaha. Vivritaha means famous, well-known. So, Vivritaha Vedaha are the well-known Vedas. Asya Pranaha, the prana of that Virat, Vayu is the air. Asya Hridayam, the mind of that Virat, Vishwam is the universe. And Asya Padbhyam, his feet, Prithvi is the earth. Okay. So, in short, the higher lokas are the head of this Virat Ishvara. The sun and the moon are his eyes. The four directions or four quarters are his ears. The Veda, the well-known Veda, is the speech. The air is his pranaha, the breath. Vishwam, the universe, is his heart. And the earth is his feet. And he is indeed the inner sense of all beings. So remember that in this visualization, the Upanishad, the Shruti is talking about two things, the visible universe and the invisible universe. So in Sanskrit, Murta Amurta. Murta Amurta Prapanchaha. Murta Prapancha is what you can see. Amurta Prapancha is what you cannot see. And here we are not talking about what? Murta Prapancha. And this Murta Prapancha, the description itself corresponds to what? Corresponds to chapter 11 of Bhagavad Gita. We are talking about Vishwarupa Ishvara. So the Shruti is saying that the whole universe, the entire Jagat, is the body of Ishvara. This idea we saw in chapter 11 also. Why is it so important to understand this universe as the body of Ishvara? What is the benefit out of this understanding the universe as the body of Ishvara? It's a very important idea, incidentally, in the scriptures. What would be the reason? You
So,
saw.
Ravi,
Yes, please go on.
someone else want to try? Go ahead.
Oh, Ratu, you go ahead, yeah.
See, if, for example, if everything is part of me, I have respect for that.
Excellent.
Okay. So it's only so that I think everything belongs to me or I belong to everything, then there is a, respect and protection and everything for everything.
Okay, that's the idea. Because when something is away from you, when something is different from you, that is the reason why you have raga dvesha. Your likes and dislikes always because something is not you or away from you. And when you say the whole universe is the body of Ishvara, you are considering the entire universe as Ishvara. And towards Ishvara, what is there? Only bhakti. So, Vishwarupa Dhyanam reduces raga dvesha for other things. That is one reason. The second reason is that Veda wants us to grow out of the idea that normally we all have of Ekarupa Ishvara. Veda wants us to stop seeing Ishvara as located in one place or one temple. And therefore the Shruti says, learn to see the whole universe as Ishvara. When you look at the sun, think of it as the eye of Ishvara. Sun is available entire morning. The moon is available entire night. So wherever, whether you open your eyes in the daytime or in the night, you are looking at what? You are looking at only the eye of Ishvara, which means you extend it, that you are looking at Ishvara alone. Therefore, whenever you are doing this Vishwarupa Ishvara Dhyanam, stop thinking of things as yours or not yours. In fact, during Vishwarupa Dhyanam, we should know that everything is Ishvara. Another way of saying that everything belongs to Bhagavan only. Everything is Bhagavan's property. Right? So there's no raga dvesha because you cannot dislike anything which is Bhagavan's property. So here again, you have to actually borrow the words etasma jayate from the previous verse. And then you say etasma jayate from this Brahman. Yesha sarva bhutantaratma. So this sarva bhutantaratma is the essence of all beings, which we are talking about, Virat Ishvara, Vishwarupa Ishvara. So, etasma jayate esha sarva bhutantaratma. This Virat Vishwarupa Ishvara was born from that Brahman alone. That is a very important understanding. Previous verse talked about Hiranyagarbha. From that Hiranyagarbha is born this Virat. From that Maya Sahit. And you can extend it further. Hiranyagarbha is born from whom?
Antaryami.
Antaryami. So whenever you say Maya Sahita Ishvara, remember the real context is Antaryami. From Antaryami, Hiranyagarbha is born. Hiranyagarbha also is referred to as Maya Sahita Ishvara. The individual meaning at any particular place is always contextual. So look at the context and then you will know. But here, the flow is that from Antaryami, Hiranyagarbha is born. From Hiranyagarbha, Virat is born. And therefore, Virat also is born from that Aksharam Brahman alone. And this Virat is now being described in detail. As I said, all this basically is to refine my vision of the entire universe as nothing but Ishvara. So, Agnihi Murdha, right? So, literally, Murdha is the head, and Agni means fire, right? So literally it means his head is fire. Now, the interpretation is not to be taken like that. There is a meditation called Panchagni Vidya. Okay, that is a meditation which appears in an Upanishad called the Chandogya Upanishad. It's called Panchagni Vidya. In that Panchagni Vidya, the Swarga, heaven, is looked upon as Agni, right? And there is it's not a random interpretation. Shankara gives this interpretation in his commentary saying that here Agni means Swarga, and to show that he is not talking off the hat of his hat or inventing things, he quotes from Chandogya. Chandogya has, in the 5th chapter, has the 4th section, the first mantra, 541. That mantra says, Asau Vava Lokaha He Gautam Agni. Hey Gautam, that Lokaha is Agni. That Swarga Lokaha is Agni. So this is Shruti support. Shruti also supports this interpretation that Agni Murdha means the head of that Virat is Swarga. Okay, that is Shruti support. Can we think of any Yukti support? Can there be any logical reason for this meaning? If you look at the mantra, you will see that the mantra says, what does it say now? Padbhyam Prithivihi. The feet of that Virat is the earth, Bhuloka. Prithvi, Bhuloka is taken. So contextually, the feet of Virat is Bhuloka, and therefore what is above? Above Bhuloka we say is Swarga only, and that is the logical support. And therefore both Shruti and Yukti, they support the meaning that Agni has to be taken as Swarga. So Virat's head is Swarga. Heavens are the head of Virat. And another reason also is there. The sun and the moon are taken as the eyes. Prithvi is the leg, the sun and the feet rather, and the sun and the moon are the eyes. Obviously, the eyes are the head, and the head must be above us, therefore in heaven. So this is the logical support for the fact that Agni is equal to Swargaloka. I have given you the Shruti support also from Chandogya. So we can take it that Virat's head is the upper loka, Swarga. All the upper lokas form his head. Now again, it's a very simplistic statement. All the upper lokas form his head, form Virat's head, which means that there are no lokas beyond that head, right? Which has to be interpreted as all lokas are located in Virat alone. In that Virat Ishvara, every loka is there. Okay, so that is the understanding. Then, Chakshushi Chandra Suryoho. His eyes are the moon and the sun. Dishaha Shrotre. His ears are the directions. So we can take the 4 directions of north, south, east, west, 4 primary directions, and we can take because it is Virat Ishvara, you can't take only 4 directions. Why not? Because Virat Ishvara is everywhere. It is Sarvavyapi, all pervading. Therefore, Dishaha has to be taken as 10 directions. 4 primary, north, south, east, west. 4 secondary, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, plus 2 more, up and down. Totally 10 directions. Okay, so that is Dishaha. His ears are there everywhere, literally. Then, Vag Vivrataha Vedaha. So, Vak here is what he has told us, not just in terms of his words. So, his words are basically what? Virat Ishvara doesn't talk unnecessarily. All his words are said to be contained in the Vedas, and that's what he says. Vak Vivritascha Vedaha. What are the instructions he gave to human beings? These are all contained in the well-known Vivrataha Vedaha. So Veda is mouth, speech. Whatever we read in the Shastram are the instructions of Bhagavan alone. So what? Vivritasya Vedaha. And remember that when you look at the Vedas, the 4 Vedas themselves are something like 20,000 mantras. Then there are 18 Puranas, 18 sub-Puranas, then Ramayana, then Mahabharata. Mahabharata itself is 100,000 verses. You can never in one lifetime complete the full study. That's why Bhagavad Gita is there. Bhagavad Gita is said to represent all the Vedas. Veda is also called Shrutihi. So incidentally, since Veda is called Shrutihi, why is it called Shrutihi? Shruti means, comes from the word Shrota, has heard, right? Who heard? The rishis in their tapas during the meditation. They heard these mantras and then they gave it to us. So that is why Shrota, because it was originally heard. It was not written down by anybody. Rishis may have given the mantras, but they heard it. The original source is only Shrotram, and therefore Shrutihi. Then Vayuhu Pranaha. The wind is his breath. So his breath, the air, is the source for our life, our prana. And therefore Vayuhu Prana, Ishwar's prana gives us prana. Then Vishwamasya Asya Hridayam Vishwam. His heart is the universe. So here you can take the heart as the mind. All beings are in his heart. And why bring the heart into the picture? That is because when you say heart, in Shastram, whenever you say heart, remember, we are talking about the physical heart. Okay, there is no spiritual heart. There is a lot of people talk about a spiritual heart on the right hand side and all that. Shastram is very clear that whenever Shastram says heart, hridayam, it means that bit of muscle which beats in your chest. So that heart, that hridayam, why is it important?
It's the Golakam.
It is the Golakam for the mind.
It is the Golakam for mana, for the mind. And therefore, whenever you say hridayam, the Lakshyartham, implied meaning is heart, his mind. Therefore, his mind is the universe, which means that all beings are in his mind. That is a very, very important statement. When you say hridayam asya hridayam vishwam, his mind is the universe. Okay. What is there in the mind?
Yeah, Ravi,
Please,
right?
please go ahead.
Yeah,
Right.
it's thoughts that are there in the mind, and the thoughts determine most of everything what you are.
Absolutely. So the thoughts are in his mind, or Ishvara's mind. So all of us are nothing but thoughts in Ishvara's mind. Okay. Now, to understand this, you look at your dream world. In your dream world, let us say that a tiger is chasing you. Okay. And you are running and running and running, and it's so real that when the tiger jumps and you are about to be eaten by the tiger, you wake up. And you wake up, your heart is beating and you are sweating. Okay. It's a very, very real experience. But what was it really? The entire dream world plus the dream tiger plus you getting eaten up by the tiger, everything was only thoughts in your mind. And therefore, this universe, similarly, just as your dream universe is a thought in your mind, this universe is nothing but a thought in Ishvara's mind. That hridayam, that mind is nothing but Maya. Right? Therefore, your dream is manovrittihi. Ishvara's dream is Maya Vrittihi, thoughts in Maya. So manovrittihi, thoughts in the mind of the waker, of the Vishwa. Maya Vrittihi, thoughts in the mind of Ishvara. The universe is nothing but thoughts in Maya, the mind being Maya of Ishvara. And Shankara gives a very nice explanation. He says, I'll give you his Sanskrit quote for those who are interested. Sarvahi antakaranam vikaram eva. Everything, the entire Srishti, Sarvahi, is nothing but antakarana vikaram. Vikaram is modification. It's nothing but a modification of Ishvara's antakaranam, in the mind. And therefore, he also says, Shankara also says, because the whole Srishti is a modification in the mind of Ishvara, the antakaranam of Ishvara, which means Maya. The Srishti is born in Maya, and the Srishti is destroyed in Maya also. Everything happens in that Maya, that Ishvara's mind. And he says, once the Srishti is destroyed in his mind, which is what? When he goes to sleep. So he's talking about that part of Shastram which says that the whole universe gets destroyed during Pralayam. Pralayam is actually when Lord Brahmaji goes to sleep. And when he wakes up, the universe is again projected. So in Jagrata Avastha, that same universe is brought forward again. Right? So that's what he's talking about. So in you can understand this from the point of view of the individual also. Like Pralayam and Jagrata Avastha is from, and the projection is from Ishvara's viewpoint. But in our own experience, in the Vyashti context, in deep sleep, remember, in Sushupti Avastha, there is no Vishwa. That is why that consciousness in Sushupti Avastha is given a different name. The consciousness in Jagrata Avastha is called Vishwa. The consciousness in Swapna Avastha is called what?
Ragni. In Sushupti Avastha, it's called
Taijasa.
Taijasa. It's called
Taijasa.
Tajasa is in, not in Sushupti Avastha.
in Swapna.
In Swapna Avastha, and in Sushupti Avastha, it's called
Ragni.
Prajna. Prakarshena Agniyaha, specially ignorant. Okay. So that is why in our deep sleep, Sushupti Avastha, there is no Vishwa. Our Vishwa emerges when we wake up. And similarly, in the Sushupti Avastha of Lord Brahmaji, Virat is absorbed. Virat is not there. Virat Ishvara, the universe, emerges only when Hiranyagarbha or Lord Brahma wakes up. Okay, so that is the comparison. And therefore, remember, the world can be experienced only when the mind is awake. And we often say, when the mind resolves in Sushupti Avastha, the world disappears. And that usually a corollary is derived from that statement, that the Jagat, therefore, is non-separate from the mind. Okay, but you have to understand the statement very, very carefully. From the individual's point of view, from the Vyashti point of view, from the Jiva's point of view, the Jagat is not a modification of your mind. Whenever you say the universe is a modification of mind, you have to understand that it is a modification of Ishvara's mind. And therefore, when Ishvara goes to sleep, the Jagat resolves. When you go to sleep, Jagat does not resolve. It resolves for you. But it is very much there for the others who have not gone to sleep. Especially half the universe, half this earth itself is awake at that point of time. And therefore, it is very much there. So it's a huge discussion. And why is it so important? For a very simple reason. When we say mithya, when we use the word mithya, many people who have not properly studied the Shastram, they understand it, they interpret it as a mental projection. Okay. In fact, even Buddhism puts forward this theory that the world is a mental projection. But Advaita does not accept the world as a mental projection of Jiva. The problem is, Buddhism says it is a mental projection of Jiva, okay? And many people simply say mental projection. They may not be Buddhists, they may be practicing Hindus, but they say mental projection. But to have clarity, when you say world is mental projection, you always add it's a projection of Ishvara's mind, which means it's a thought in Ishvara's mind. And that is why when Ishvara goes to sleep, the world goes away. When you go to sleep, the world does not go away. Therefore, while Buddhism says that world is a thought in the mind, a mental projection, remember that we Advaitins always qualify, yes, it is a mental projection, but it is a mental projection of Ishvara's mind. Okay, why so much problem? Because as we study Upanishads and especially Shankara Bhashyam and Mandukya Upanishad in particular, you will find that Shankara as well as Gaudapada, who wrote the Karikas, the commentary on Mandukya Upanishad, we find that both of them use the word mental projection. In fact, there is so much of controversy about this that some people have been saying, some of the opponents to Shankara say that actually Shankara is a Buddhist in disguise. He's pretending to be Advaitin, but he's a Buddhist because he's basically using the same ideas. These ideas become more clear in Brahma Sutra, where a clear analysis is done. And Shankara says that the Buddhists take the view that the world is a mental projection. And when you say mental projection without adding Ishvara, remember it means mental projection of the Jiva. And this mental projection of the Jiva is called what? Pratibhasika Satyam in our language. Okay. So for the Buddhists, the world is a Pratibhasika Satyam. But for the Advaitin, the world is a Vyavaharika Satyam. And therefore, from the Vyashti point of view, from the Jiva's point of view, I wake up to experience the world, not to project it. Ishvara wakes up to project the world. Very clear difference. When Ishvara wakes up, the world is projected. When I wake up, I don't project the world, it is already there. I just experience the world. And therefore, here, the world is the projection in the mind of Ishvara, of Virat Ishvara, is the conclusion. And this negates Buddhism. Buddhistic view is negated. Then, Padvyam Prithvi, the feet are the earth of Ishvara. And this Vishwarupa Ishvara was born out of what? Paramatma Brahman. Now, from these verses, from these mantras, I shouldn't use the word verses. Verses are slokas, we don't use them in relation to Upanishads. Upanishads are always mantras. So creation should be understood from all these mantras at three different levels. The first one is Brahman is the creator. Brahman created the universe. That is the first level of understanding, which is for the beginner. Then there's a refinement. Brahman became the universe. This is Parinami Upadana Karan. That's a refinement. Over Brahman creator, Brahman became Parinami Upadana Karanam. And is further refined. Brahman did not create the universe. Brahman did not become the universe. Brahman now appears as the universe without undergoing any change. This is Vivarta Upadana Karaka, right? The example is just as the waker you appears as the dreamer you in your dream. Have you undergone a change? No. Waker you is the dreamer you. In fact, you might be wearing the same clothes as you wore in the morning when you went to office in your dream. The waker you is the dreamer you, has appeared as the dreamer you, but there has been no change. That is a Vivarta Upadana Karanam. And therefore, by saying, when Shastra is saying that the universe is basically only an appearance, that Brahman did not create, did not become, but is appearing as the universe, Shastra is hinting at the fact that there is something more. It is not the final truth. Just like when we talk about sunrise and sunset, right? We know that sun is stationary, but we talk about sunrise and sunset. And therefore, when we talk about the universe appearing, we know it's a transactional reality, a vyavaharika satyam. And this universe as an appearance is being talked about in these verses. So Amurta Prapancha is called Hiranyagarbha, the third mantra. The fourth mantra talks about Murta Prapancha, which is called Virat. Murta Prapancha was that which is formless, that which is Sukshma Samashti. That Sukshma Samashti was Hiranyagarbha Tattvam, that is Amurta Prapancha, that we saw in the last mantra, the third mantra. And here we are talking about the Murta Prapancha, the visible Prapancha. It's called Virat Ishvara. One is Hiranyagarbha, Lord Brahmaji. One is Virat Ishvara. So this will stop over here. Any questions? All very, very beautiful verses. Each will reinforce the idea of the previous verses. And of course, the latest
Sir.
stage. Yeah, Vinita ji, boliye.
We spoke about Shruti and Yukti. So the last section when you spoke about the waker and the dreamer is the Anubhava part.
No, they are not talking about Anubhava at all.
Only Shruti.
We talked about Shruti and Yukti. Anubhava you can infer from there, but that is not what we are saying. Because if you say I experienced a dream, the question can always arise: who experienced? Was it the waker or the dreamer? So we don't go into that aspect just now.
True. Right.
And Acharya ji, Saguna Brahman is Vyavaharik Brahman.
Yes, Saguna Brahman is always in Vyavaharika only. That's why I explained. When Brahman is taken in the Vyavaharika context, it becomes Saguna Brahman. There is no Nirguna Brahman in Vyavaharika. That is why Nirguna Brahman can only be understood, never experienced. Because all experience takes place only in Vyavaharika.
Very nice, very beautiful.
Okay, so thank you for your patience. With this, we'll stop for today. Please continue to revise, because without that, the further mantras will become more and more complex. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.